Hello, my fellow weebs. A few months ago in Bleach Thousand Year Blood War, Rukia's Bankai came out, and Boros as of recently has been a pretty big trend. So I decided to look up on YouTube whether this was a fight or not, and when I saw it wasn't, I decided to do it myself. As, well, I like being original. What can I say? Starting off with Boros, I think his physical strength is what we should talk about here because it really shines. He was able to kick Saitama to the moon, and with his collapsing star roaring cannon, it was stated that he would be able to destroy the surface of the planet, which is multi-continental. And if you used a anime statement, then it would be a planetary theme. I'm not a very big fan of the star level stuff, but if you want to use planetary, I believe that's completely fine. However, these moves can be risky, as when Boros kicked Saitama to the moon, he admitted that it took some of his lifespan off, as it took a lot of strain on his body. And using the collapsing star roaring cannon, it's very risky because I believe he can only use this move once, as it's more or less just using all of his energy in one single attack, which he was going to use to wipe Saitama along with himself out, and the planet. Talking about his speed, Boros was able to kick Saitama to the moon within a few seconds, which would be around light speed. And Boros should be able to scale to his own limbs launching him, so he should arguably be light speed. Not to mention he can also negate friction. And he's also logically faster than his own minions, which was apparently moving around sub-relativistic speeds. And you can argue he upscales from Flashy Flash. So yeah. Light speed should be pretty easy for Boros. Maybe faster than light, like bare minimum. I would say light speed to be safe, however. Boros also has amazing regeneration, as Saitama literally turned him into goo, and he regenerated instantly. And this was after he strained himself. So at full power, his regeneration should be pretty broken. However, if you were to overcome the threshold of his durability, you could overcome his regeneration and just straight up kill him, which is something to keep in mind when talking about Boros. Starting off with Rukia, you can compare to maybe the likes of Ukleora and his Lanza, though I don't think she's as powerful as him in raw power. She's definitely comparable, and you can do all kinds of things to possibly get the potency of this quite a bit higher than what's shown, as area of effect doesn't necessarily limit it exactly. So you could argue that this Lanza is country to continental pretty easily. In which case, I don't think Rukia has the physical power to face Boros. I don't think she has physical power to face him at all, actually. Which is kind of unfortunate. However, Rukia really shines in her hacks abilities, which we will talk about now. Shinigami tend to have spiritual-based attacks. Not only are they spirits themselves, but they technically bypass spirits and send them to the Soul Society. And their Zanpakuto cuts people's spirits. So she would be able to attack Boros on a non-physical level, which could most likely just bypass his durability and hurt him, despite her not having the actual attack potency to damage him. Not to mention her non-physical interaction as being a spirit. I've never seen Boros touch spirits before, so she can't be damaged by his physical attacks, necessarily. However, in her battle with the Sternrohr Note, she was able to show off her new abilities, in which she can lower her body temperature to freezing temperatures. And whatever she comes in contact with her blade, it gets frozen as well. And she even made a statement of it reaching absolute zero at some point, which is very impressive. However, she must also be careful with this because with this ability comes a very big risk in which if she doesn't disengage it properly and slowly, it can break down her body tissue very fast. And that could be extremely fatal. Rukia may have eventually been pressed into a corner by Osnote and had to be saved by Byakuya. However, with her Haka no Togami, or her Bankai, she was able to freeze his ass instantly. Unlike her Shikai, her Bankai has a massive range. Using visuals from the anime, we can see that it made a whole ass ice storm, which straight up one-shot Osnote and made it to where he couldn't even regenerate, despite him had powering up. It would also make logical sense to assume that this Bankai would be colder than her own Shikai, and we have statements of it being absolute zero. which is extremely impressive. However, with this new power, there also came an even greater risk. Rukia does not have much experience with her Shikai or her Bankai, and she even had to be stopped by Byakuya when she was falling apart afterwards. So if she were to fight alone with this, or even for too long, there's a good chance that she'll die. Speed scaling for Rukia will be a very touchy topic, as Bleach scalers often don't know what they're doing when it comes to their own verse. So yeah, I already know someone's going to be mad in the comment section, but you can use Gin's Bankai and its statement of being Mach 500, then the statement of it being slower. You could also use the Mach 1000 statement from the databooks to make it faster. But if you believe that we should use the main source material, you could just argue it's slower than that. Though I would take the Mach 1000 statement. But there's also one other feat we could talk about, and that's the possibility that the Sternritter Renji bot was actually shooting beams of light and actual light. Though it is an assumption, it would be logical to say that if that's actual light, that's a sub-relativistic to possibly relativistic speed feat Renji did when he blocked it. Because he didn't actually move faster in the beam itself, but him blocking it means he's comparable. And that was Shikai Renji, so when he goes into Bankai, he should definitely be faster in light. I do think Renji is faster than Rukia, but she should at least be somewhat comparable to him, especially seeing how they train together. But I do want to express that I genuinely believe Rukia should only have the 5 times amp from Bankai, because it is a 5 to 10 times amp. And I think it's a 5 times because Rukia is not very experienced for her Bankai. Like, it almost killed her actually, and Byakuya had to stop her. She's not experienced with her Shikai either, and she even admits herself that she does have a long way to go. So I think it would be fair to say she has the 5 times amp, but it would also be fair still to say that if we use this line of scaling, she should be faster in life. So, getting into the actual fight itself, I think it can be pretty complicated on a few grounds. Let me explain. So, Rukia has the attacks that can attack his soul, that most definitely kill Boros if she gets a good hit in. And while Boros definitely cannot see her, as I don't think he's ever seen souls, he can definitely see energy, he can definitely sense her and stuff, because he was also able to sense Saitama and his power. So I think he would be able to sense her. However, I don't think he's going to be able to see or be able to actually harm her with his non-physical interaction. So with this, does Boros really stand a chance? I think he does. Let me explain. So he's definitely fast. So if you argued that the Bankai statement for Gin limits Rukia to around Mach 500 or faster, then that would be complicated because Boros is a very, very solid fast light speed tier, which means he would be able to bolt around and dodge her attacks with his being able to sense her. This and her Shikai is not very range. It doesn't have very good range, so there's a very good chance that she won't be able to catch him. Now, for killing her, eventually, if he decides to use a star-collapsing roaring cannon and destroys the planet, we do have evidence that there's a good chance that Boros can survive in outer space, which means Rukia would suffocate, because we know Shinigami don't have the abilities to survive in outer space themselves, which should include Rukia. However, I would say Rukia wins this battle. Why? Because Boros tends to use those as a last resort, and Rukia eventually would probably decide to go into her Bankai to take him out, because she would realize that he's too fast. So using a ranged attack like her Bankai would straight up one-shot Boros. I don't think his healing would save him either, because not only would this attack his spirit, but it would also freeze all the cells in his body, being comparable or even better than absolute zero. In which case, if she uses her Bankai, I think it's game over. However, if you want to make an argument for Boros possibly regenerating anyways, I can do that scenario as well, in which case I still think that he'll eventually go down. However, due to her inexperience with Bankai, I think she would also die in the process due to her body tissue breaking down. Which would be a horrible loss for us weebs, man. Like, seriously. Boros and Rukia? Fuck. So yeah, And if we argue the light speed meta for Rukia or faster than light, then I think she just straight up cuts him in half with her spiritual attacks, as she'll be able to run up on him and just slice him to pieces. In which case, I would say Rukia wins more times than not. So yeah, I would side with Rukia winning more times than not, because if you argue she has superior speed, she just blitzes and cuts him to pieces. Or if you argue that she doesn't, then she'll just enter her Bankai, overcome his healing factor, and freeze him to death. Or it would just be a tie. And if you argue that for some reason Boros decides to use his Star Collapsing Roaring Cannon, I would say that he would win. Though I seriously doubt he would resort to using it so soon, especially against someone who's not really physically combative against him. Because if you argue that she's faster, then he's not ever going to actually get a chance to do anything, because she's going to slice him up. But if you argue that it's a game of cat and mouse due to her being slower, I don't see any reason why he would resort to such a thing. Now that I've had the Ice Queen of Bleach win against the wannabe Frieza from One Punch Man, it is time for me to end the video. However, I will end the video by giving a shout out to my friend Crafty, a shout out to my friend Achan, I think that's Achan, I'm not sure, and a shout out to my own gaming channel, as I'm doing Pokemon Nuzlocke and Pokemon Let's Plays on there. Please, I also will be doing strength and power tier lists. Give me attention. I need it. I need it so bad. But yeah, other than that, have a good day, everybody. More Bleach content will be out, and I will try to post on here once a week. Though if I don't, please don't rip my head off. I am yet a humble and peaceful weeaboo. Hey, Weeaboo Warrior did not copyright it, so I'm using it. But in all seriousness, shout out to him too. He's my favorite YouTuber. Peace.